Good morning, you guys. So, I think that people have to realize that the reason that most of people are so broke and inflation is so high is because they're not participating in the voting process, or they are participating in what I think is the incorrect way. They get very attached to, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican without realizing that the president doesn't really have that much power. The power comes from the ruling elite, the oligarchs, the people, the donor class, what they call the donor class, the lobbyists. Okay, that's who they're pandering to. And they try to gaslight us by telling us that if we don't vote for one of them, a vote doesn't count. That's gaslighting, and that's minimizing our decision making and putting down our intellectual powers. They don't want us to think. And the last thing they want is one of these other parties to participate in the debates. So I guess Trump and Biden are now finally going to have a debate. And apparently the news stations that are going to have the host the debate are they're considering whether to include Kennedy. So I was just reading on that today. Kennedy is not my favorite candidate anymore because he's also a warmonger. They're all warmongers, and you have to be a warmonger to have any chance at being elected, by the way. But I think that people have to wake up and realize it's the warmongering, all of our bases, and all the enemies that we're making in all these other countries. They're destroying the dollar and destroying our standing on the world stage. We're weakening ourselves militarily, economically, diplomatically, and politically with all these wars. Okay? There is no reason for us to be sending money to Ukraine. Russia is not a threat. There's no reason for us to be sending weapons to Israel to kill all these Palestinians. By the way, I thought that all lives matter. I thought Black Lives Matter. I thought abortion is now federally outlawed because life starts at birth and we value life. But do we value life? How many millions of people has the US killed? And that weakens us. Every time we kill someone, it weakens us because we're creating enemies and we're weakening alliances. Okay? And I'm very worried about the dollar, the devaluation of the dollar. Okay? So I think that people have to realize that voting for Biden or Trump or a Republican or Democrat is just going to continue us down on the path of weakening ourselves. That's why people are broke. Okay, they're counting on us to be dumb, complacent, and to believe in their propaganda. And things always come out later. I am sure now that the reason that Kennedy was assassinated, which a lot of people believe was an inside job, is because he was the anti-war candidate. He was the one that said, if we take our nuclear weapons out of Turkey, then Russia will take their nuclear weapons out of Cuba. It's a diplomatic solution. And that, a few months after that, he was assassinated. If you are an anti-war candidate, you have no chance. They will kill you. So Jill Stein has no chance anyway because she's the only anti-war candidate. And she's actually very intelligent. Like, I really like listening to these very intelligent people who have good ideas and that don't feel like they're lying to me. I do like to watch different generals, like retired generals, retired CIA analysts, and people like that, because they give a much more measured response, like more based on reality. Like, we're gaslit all the time, like we're told that Russia wants to take over Europe. They don't even have an army big enough to overtake Europe. They're basically unable to even overtake Ukraine at this point. But and then they always tell us only part of the story. I've already gone over this before, like, oh, Russia, these bad guys, they just invaded Ukraine for no reason. Oh, yes, there was a reason. They tried for 10 years to tell the US, do not bring your weapons on our border. But people don't think about it. People don't want to follow the news. Some of the stuff is complicated, but I'll just wrap it up in like a half minute. When Russia put their missiles on Cuba, which was like 100 miles off the coast of Florida, we were going to attack. But U.S. is putting its weapons in Ukraine since 10 or 15 or 20 years now, and Russia kept saying, you need to stop, you need to get out, and they wouldn't. So it's an existential threat for Russia to have the US right on its border trying to, you know, they're trying to weaken Russia and take over Russia and take all the resources. You know, I do not know what the best diplomatic solution is. I'm not a diplomat, but don't let people gaslight you and tell you that the US is so good that we care about human life. We are responsible for all of the deaths in Palestine. It's our weapons. And we sent them because the donor class, the military companies, the Israeli Zionists, and by the way, the land that the Jews are on, the Israelis are on, that was Palestinian land that was given to them, I believe, in 1948. And instead of coexisting peacefully with the Palestinians, they want to annihilate all of them and kill them the same way that they were killed in the Holocaust, although in much lower numbers. I mean, it's like colonialism. You know, like we killed the Indians, and the Israelis want to kill the Palestinians. But the age of colonialism is over. The world is not going to stand for colonialism. And we are, you know, responsible for killing all these people. But then we're told that children matter. Life begins at conception. Don't have an abortion. But once these children are born, you know, our politicians don't care. And that reminds me of this loudmouth guy at the gym the other day. He was so annoying. He's just like going on and on about how he volunteered at church and how he's so church going and just trying to look for attention. It's like, if you're a really good person, you do not have to go around making yourself look good about how much you volunteer and how good you are and what of a good person you are. Because all that stuff is just like, to me, it's inauthentic. I do not like people who are inauthentic. I mean, if you really care about people, if you really care about children's lives, you just wouldn't be fighting these wars, you know, but they're just like, oh, we're anti-abortion, we're good Christians, we're good Christians. And all those same people who are good Christians who are against abortion, they're for the killing in Palestine. Oh, save lives as long as they're my skin color, as long as they're also black or also white. But those Palestinians, kill them all. That's what they say. It makes no sense to me. Doesn't seem congruent to me at all. This is kind of a rant video, and actually I'm having like a really nice day. I love this overcast kind of drizzly weather, like the rain is drizzling on me. But what's in my mind is like that people are so stupid. They're like, oh, I'm going to vote for Biden because a vote for Kennedy is a vote that doesn't count, because they're telling you that your vote doesn't count. So if you believe it, then you know, that's how they manipulate people, by saying your voice doesn't matter, your vote doesn't count. But wait, I thought Black Lives Matter. Oh, only if you agree with them, because I think Biden did say if you don't vote for Biden, you're not black enough. They try to gaslight you, these people. Fortunately, we have free speech in this country. There are some, if you go on YouTube, you can watch like a lot of more truth channels, like there's antiwar.com. These are very measured journalists. There's the Gray Zone. I know that Israel just kicked Al Jazeera and the AP out, but also Judge Napolitano, somebody Davis. I watch like these different retired colonels that give like a more measured view. Scott Ritter. And then I watch different geopolitical analysts who talk more about the economic consequences of us making all these enemies. Because on the one hand, Blinken goes to China to try to win friends, but then at the same time, we're putting weapons in Taiwan that can attack China. So, like, what's the strategy here? You know? And so China is now just making alliances with other people. And they're selling off the dollar. Now, the other reason that people are broke is because interest rates are high. Interest rates for the mortgage market are not set by the Fed. They're set by the bond market. And the bond market has a certain amount of interest that it wants to be paid to lend money to the Treasury. Now, why does the Treasury have to, this is a question here on the internet that I don't know the answer to either. Why does the Treasury have to borrow money when it can print money? I think that printing money causes more inflation than borrowing money. But anyway, so the more debt we're in, the higher the interest rate is that we have to pay. And apparently the interest rate, the interest that we have to pay this year on our debt, $1 trillion, is as much as our GDP. Like, it's crazy. It's getting out of hand. Like, we're insolvent. The U.S. is actually insolvent, but we have like these deeply rooted financial institutions that people still kind of trust in, but that's not going to last forever. Our debt is $31 trillion. We're broke off our ass. And then people tell you, oh, that we're like the wealthiest country in the world or the most powerful country in the world. We're not. We're weaker. We're getting weaker all the time. We haven't won a war in decades. Our dollar is weak, our inflation is high, and we're losing alliances in Asia, in Africa, because of our warmongering. The only way to turn this around, I don't think the people in power are going to turn any of this around, because, hey, they're rich, they don't care. They're making money. Until there's like a huge uprising like the students were protesting and marching, or the whole system collapses eventually. The only reason I believe we're able to talk about this on YouTube is YouTube is owned by Google, and Google probably wants to expand into BRIC, into Russia and into China, so they don't really want to silence the free speech, because they can make money there. But I'm surprised the White House is not suppressing our speech, talking against all their warmongering. Anyway, and then there's this thing about Julian Assange. I didn't really follow it that much, but apparently they want to jail him because he exposed Bush's war crimes. And he was a journalist. I don't know if he stole state secrets or what, but then again, it's hard to follow what is really the truth, because one group of analysts said, well, the reason that they're not extraditing him now to the U.S. is because they don't want to do that in an election year. It would look really bad for the UK. It would look really bad for the US in an election year. But then other geopolitical analysts are saying it's the UK trying to distance itself from the US and telling the British people, we're not going to do whatever the US wants us to do, because there are other signs that other countries are distancing themselves from the US and having to do the US's bidding, because Germany, being part of NATO, they had to also sanction Russia, and that has hurt the German economy a lot, because they lost, when the US blew up the Nord Stream pipeline and also sanctioned Russia, Germany had to pay a lot more for their energy, and that made their cost of manufacturing go way up, and it's weakened Germany. Sanctioning Russia has weakened Europe. And so, but they have these alliances with the US, and they're kind of trying to figure out if they want to keep those alliances, because these decisions we're making for them are weakening them. And then the US is like, oh, we're a country of law. Russia invaded Ukraine. We want the International Criminal Court to sanction Putin. But when the International Criminal Court wants to sanction Israel for killing civilians in Palestine, oh, no, we can't have that. And now we have 3 European countries that are also calling for Palestine to be recognized as a state, breaking away from the US alliance. So I don't know if, people have all these different speculations about why, certain things are happening. But despite an election year, our inflation is still high. And I think that people have to, if they want something to change, they have to just start voting for people that are not Democrats or Republicans. But even if someone like Jill Stein did get into office, I don't even know what she could do or how long she would be there before they would try to take her out, because she would not allow the elite to continue making money off the wars. The US makes its money off the wars and the financialization of bad products. We're going to have probably a huge collapse in the commercial real estate market, because a lot of bonds are coming due, the interest rate is higher, the property values have gone down, and they're going to try to keep propping it up as long as they can. But I'm not proud of what we're doing in this country. We have really decimated our manufacturing, because we're saying we're too good for that, but we're just going to make wars and create financial products. So, where do you think this country is going? Do you really think Biden or Trump can turn things around? Seriously? Leave your comments.